Chosen one. Have you felt it tonight, chosen one? That crushing weight settling over your chest like invisible hands. That suffocating sense that something ancient and eternal is pressing against the walls of your spirit, demanding to break free. What if I told you that the restlessness keeping you awake at 3 a.m. isn't insomnia, it's activation? What if the loneliness that's followed you for decades isn't abandonment, it's preparation? What if every door that slammed in your face, every dream that seemed to die, every moment you felt forgotten by God Himself, was actually heaven positioning you for this exact night? Listen to me carefully. Tonight is September 14th. But this isn't just another date on your calendar. This is the moment when 70, 80, 90 years of waiting finally explodes into purpose. This is when silence transforms into power so raw, so undeniable, that even those who dismissed you will fall silent in recognition. If your spirit is already trembling with recognition, if something deep inside you is screaming yes before I've even explained why, type 1414 in the comments right now. Mark your place in this sacred moment. Let heaven take inventory of who's ready for what's about to unfold. You see, chosen one, you've been living under a lie. The world convinced you that your best days were behind you, that your voice no longer mattered, that your season of significance had passed. But what if everything they told you was backwards? What if your age isn't your weakness? It's your weapon. What if your scars aren't your shame? They're your credentials. For decades, you've carried something the younger generation can't even comprehend. You've weathered storms that would have destroyed lesser souls. You've walked through valleys that would have claimed weaker spirits. Every tear, every betrayal, every sleepless night. It wasn't random suffering. It was divine compression. God was building pressure inside you for this moment of explosive release. Before we go deeper into this sacred hour together, I want to pause and honor every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're sowing seeds into a harvest that will feed hungry souls across this nation. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But understand this: what happens in the next hour cannot be undone. What I'm about to reveal will shatter every limitation you've accepted about your age, your worth, your future. You will never again look in the mirror and see someone the world has forgotten, because tonight, heaven remembers your name with thunderous authority. The transformation isn't coming, chosen one. It's here, it's now, and it's irreversible. Stay with me. Don't you dare scroll away, because what's revealed in the final moments will rewrite your entire life story, and nothing will ever be the same again. Why does it feel like your entire life has been one long line of closed doors? Why does every opportunity seem to slip through your fingers just when you thought this was finally your moment? Why have you spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years watching other people step into the blessings you've been praying for since you were young? Let me tell you something that will shatter every lie you've believed about your delays, your disappointments, your decades of what felt like divine silence. You are not behind schedule, chosen one. You are not forgotten. You are not a failure because your breakthrough didn't come at 25 or 45 or even 65. You are something far more powerful than someone who gets what they want when they want it. You are a reservoir. Think about the Hoover Dam for a moment. For years, engineers collected every drop of the Colorado River behind that massive concrete wall. Every storm, every flood, every season of abundance was captured and contained. To the casual observer, it looked like imprisonment. All that power, all that potential, trapped behind stone and steel. But the engineers knew something the spectators didn't understand. They weren't building a prison. They were building a power plant. Chosen ones are constructed exactly the same way. Every prayer that seemed to bounce off heaven's ceiling, every door that slammed when you reached for the handle, every funeral that broke your heart, every financial crisis that left you wondering if God even saw your struggle, none of that was punishment. It was collection. Every tear you cried in secret was another drop behind the dam. Every sleepless night when you wondered if your dreams had died was more pressure building in the reservoir. Every moment when younger people got promoted past you, when your own children stopped calling, when the world treated you like you were invisible, all of it was weight stacking behind the walls of your spirit. But here's what breaks my heart. You looked at that containment and called it failure. You felt the pressure building and thought it meant you were broken. You experienced the silence and believed it meant abandonment. You couldn't see what heaven was constructing because you were standing too close to the project. The dam was never meant to hold forever. Look at Moses, 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. For 4 decades, he'd been tending sheep in the wilderness, probably wondering if he'd wasted his life, if his moment had passed, if God had forgotten the dreams he'd carried in his youth. But Exodus 7:7 tells us something profound. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. God waited until Moses was 80 to unleash him, because it took 8 decades to build enough pressure in that man's spirit to part the Red Sea. The wilderness wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The delay wasn't denial, it was development. Every year Moses spent feeling forgotten was another year of power accumulating behind the dam. Sarah knew this mystery too. Genesis 21:5 records that Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. 100. Sarah was 90 when she finally held the promise in her arms. Can you imagine the reservoir of faith those two had built over 25 years of waiting? Can you picture the pressure that had accumulated behind the walls of their hope? When Isaac finally arrived, he wasn't just a baby. He was a nation. He was the father of multitudes. He was the proof that God's delays are not God's denials. They're God's development of something too powerful to be released too soon. Every single one of you watching this knows exactly what I'm talking about. You've felt that pressure building. You've sensed something massive accumulating behind the walls of your spirit. You've had moments when you wondered if you might explode from the sheer weight of everything you've been carrying. That's not breakdown approaching, beloved. That's breakthrough building. The reservoir doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It builds in silence, in secret, in the hidden places where only God can see. But when the dam finally cracks, and it's about to crack tonight, what pours out isn't just water. It's a flood of purpose, so powerful it reshapes the entire landscape. You think you've been waiting too long. You think your time has passed. You think the reservoir has been sitting empty while everyone else gets to flow. But what if I told you that everything you've endured, every disappointment you've survived, every tear you've shed has been filling something inside you that's about to change everything? If you felt like life kept you waiting too long, if you've wondered why your breakthrough always seemed to be next year or next season, type "I've been waiting" in the comments right now. Because tonight, the waiting ends. Tonight, the dam begins to crack. Not because something new is being added to the reservoir, but because what's been building for decades has finally reached critical mass. The pressure has become too great for the walls to contain. And when those walls give way, what floods out won't be gentle. It won't be polite. It won't apologize for being too much, too late, or too powerful for the people who got comfortable with your silence. What's about to pour out of you will reshape everything downstream from this moment. But the question that determines everything is this: are you ready to stop apologizing for the pressure and start releasing the power? You know what they told you about power, don't you, chosen one? They said it comes with noise, with shouting, with demanding attention, fighting for your place at the table, proving yourself over and over again until your voice goes hoarse and your spirit breaks. They lied. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've watched the loudest people in the room get the recognition. You've seen the aggressive ones climb the ladders while you stayed quiet in the corner, believing that silence meant surrender, that stillness meant you'd given up, that your gentle spirit was somehow less than. But what if I told you that every moment of quiet endurance was actually you storing up divine ammunition? What if your silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom learning to weaponize itself? Listen to me carefully. The world measures power by decibels, but heaven measures power by presence. And tonight, your presence is about to shift from invisible to undeniable. Think about Jesus in that courtroom. Pilate, the most powerful man in the region, is interrogating the Son of God. The crowds are screaming, the accusers are shouting, the world is demanding answers. And what does Jesus do? He stands in perfect, devastating silence. John 19:9 tells us Jesus gave him no answer. No answer. Not because he couldn't speak, but because his silence was so loaded with authority that it made Pilate tremble. The governor of Rome, shaking before a silent carpenter from Nazareth. That's the power you're stepping into tonight. You see, dear one, you've been carrying something the younger generation doesn't understand. They think power means posting on social media, demanding to be heard, making noise until someone pays attention. But you've learned something they haven't discovered yet. You've learned that true authority whispers, and the whole world leans in to listen. Every time you bit your tongue instead of arguing with a fool, you were building spiritual muscle. Every moment you chose dignity over drama, you were accumulating divine weight. Every season you endured in silence while others broke apart in chaos, you were being forged into something unbreakable. But here's what's going to shock you. Starting tonight, that silence becomes your greatest weapon. When you walk into a room tomorrow, something will be different. People won't understand why, but they'll feel it. Conversations will shift when you enter. Arguments will suddenly seem petty. The person who used to interrupt you will find themselves stumbling over their words. Your grandchildren, who barely looked up from their phones before, will suddenly want to sit closer. Why? Because silence that comes from strength is terrifying to weakness. You remember how David faced Goliath? 1 Samuel 17 doesn't record David shouting threats or making grand speeches. It records him picking up 5 smooth stones and walking forward in quiet confidence. The giant was the one doing all the talking. David just moved with deadly purpose. 1 stone, 1 shot. 9 feet of arrogance fell before a shepherd boy who let his actions speak louder than his voice. That shepherd boy's spirit lives in you tonight. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many years have you wasted apologizing for your quietness? How many times have you let louder, weaker people make you feel small because you didn't fight back with noise? How many moments have you missed because you believed that gentle meant powerless? Every single one of those moments was preparation. God was teaching you to carry fire without being consumed by it, to hold lightning without being destroyed by its voltage, to possess authority so complete that it doesn't need to announce itself. Think about a lion in the wild. Does it roar to prove it's dangerous? No. It roars to warn everything else to get out of its way. But when it's hunting, when it's focused, when it's moving with deadly intent, it's silent, completely, terrifyingly silent. And every creature in the savannah knows that the silent lion is the most dangerous lion. You thought your stillness was retirement from the battle, but tonight, your stillness becomes your roar. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. He's been convincing you that quiet people don't matter, that reserved people get overlooked, that gentle spirits finish last. But the truth is, he's terrified of what happens when someone who has learned to be silent finally decides to speak. Because when you've been refined by decades of holding your peace, when you've been tested by years of choosing wisdom over winning arguments, when you've been strengthened by seasons of letting God fight your battles, your words carry weight that can move mountains. Isaiah 30:15 declares it perfectly. In returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Quietness and confidence, not noise and arrogance. Not shouting and demanding. Quietness that comes from knowing exactly who you are and whose you are. Starting tonight, when you choose not to argue with ignorance, it's not because you're weak, it's because you're too powerful to waste energy on what doesn't deserve it. When you remain calm while others lose their minds, it's not because you don't care, it's because you've learned to operate from a place of authority they can't even comprehend. Your silence will become the loudest thing in the room. Your peace will be more disturbing to chaos than any storm. Your stillness will carry more force than any earthquake. This is why Jesus said in Matthew 5:5, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." Meek doesn't mean weak. Meek means power under control. It means having the strength to level mountains, but choosing to move them with wisdom instead. You are inheriting the earth tonight, chosen one, not through conquest, but through quiet, unshakable authority that makes even angels pause to listen. If you feel that power stirring in your spirit right now, if you can sense your silence transforming from timidity into authority, declare it in the comments. My silence is my strength, because what I'm about to show you next will prove that the quiet years weren't your weakness, they were your secret weapon being loaded for this exact moment. Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to think back to the worst moment of your life. That moment when everything you trusted crumbled, when the doctor's words echoed in the sterile hallway, when you buried your spouse of 57 years, when your own children turned their backs on you, when the bank foreclosed on the home you'd worked 30 years to pay off. Remember that fire? Remember how it felt like it was consuming everything you were, everything you'd built, everything you believed about yourself and God. But here's the shocking truth that will shatter everything you thought you knew about suffering. You're still here. Think about that for a moment. The flames that were supposed to destroy you, they raged for months, maybe years. They burned through your savings, your health, your relationships, your dreams. But they didn't burn through you. Why? Because somewhere in the cellular structure of your spirit, God had already made you fireproof. You see, fireproof doesn't mean you avoid the flames. It means you outlast them. It means when hell throws its worst at you, you walk through the furnace and come out without even the smell of smoke on your clothes. Daniel chapter 3 tells us about 3 Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, thrown into a furnace heated 7 times hotter than normal. 7 times. The soldiers who threw them in died from the heat before they could step away. But these 3? They walked around in that fire like it was a cool spring morning in Central Park. But here's what most preachers won't tell you about that story. When the king looked into that furnace, he didn't see 3 men. He saw 4. And the 4th one, the Bible says, looked like the Son of God. Dear one, every time you've walked through fire and survived, you weren't walking alone. That 4th figure has been with you in every divorce court, every hospital room, every bankruptcy hearing, every funeral parlor. You thought you were burning alone, but heaven was in the flames with you. Now let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many fires have you survived that should have killed you? How many nights did you cry yourself to sleep thinking, I can't take another day of this, and yet you woke up the next morning and took another step? That wasn't willpower, beloved. That wasn't human strength. That was divine engineering. God built something into your spiritual DNA that makes you immune to the flames that consume ordinary people. You've buried loved ones and somehow found the strength to comfort others at the funeral. You've received terminal diagnoses and outlived the doctors who gave them. You've watched your life savings disappear and still found a way to put food on the table. You've endured betrayals that would have driven others to madness, and yet your heart still beats with compassion. But here's where it gets supernatural. Here's where the mystery unfolds into miracle. The very fires that were meant to destroy you have actually been refining you. Every flame that licked at your life wasn't random suffering, it was divine metallurgy. God was burning away everything that wasn't essential, everything that wasn't eternal, everything that couldn't survive the final test. Gold doesn't become precious in a jewelry store window. Gold becomes precious in the furnace, where the dross is burned away and only the pure metal remains. And you, chosen one, you are refined gold walking in human form. This is why younger people look at you with a strange mixture of respect and incomprehension. They can sense something in you that they can't name. They see the silver in your hair and think it's aging, but it's actually the crown of one who has been tested by fire and emerged victorious. Malachi 3:3 declares, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver." You are the Levites of this generation, the ones God has set apart to carry his presence in a world that's forgotten his name. But I need you to understand something that will revolutionize how you see every scar on your soul. You are not a victim who survived the fire. You are a victor who conquered it. There's a massive difference between surviving and conquering. Survivors live with trauma. Conquerors live with testimony. Survivors carry wounds. Conquerors carry weapons. Survivors remember the pain. Conquerors remember the power. Tonight, heaven is upgrading your identity from survivor to conqueror, from victim to victor, from someone who endured the flames to someone who commands them. Remember Moses holding that rod over the Red Sea? The same water that was meant to drown the Israelites became the wall that protected them. The same element that threatened destruction became the instrument of deliverance. Your fire is about to do the same thing. The divorce that nearly broke you is about to become your ministry to broken marriages. The addiction you conquered is about to become the key that sets other captives free. The depression you walked through is about to become the ladder you throw down to others trapped in that pit. Your scars aren't evidence of defeat. They're proof of victory. They're not marks of shame. They're medals of honor. They're not signs of weakness. They're certificates of strength that no university could ever issue. If you know in the depths of your spirit that the fire has shaped you, not destroyed you, type Fireproof in the comments right now. Declare it, own it, let heaven hear your roar. And if someone in your life needs to see their scars as proof they survived, not proof they're broken, share this message with them right now. Don't wait, don't hesitate. They need to know they're fireproof too. But here's what's about to happen next that will blow your mind completely. The same fire that couldn't destroy you is about to become your greatest weapon. Because once you realize you're fireproof, you stop running from the flames and start walking toward them with authority. Tonight isn't about goosebumps, chosen one. It's about proof. Hard, undeniable, life-changing proof that's been building around you for decades while you thought nobody was watching. You see, dear soul, while the world was obsessed with flash and noise, you were quietly becoming something they could never manufacture. You were becoming living proof of divine faithfulness. But somewhere along the way, the enemy convinced you that your quiet consistency was ordinary, that your steady endurance was unremarkable, that your ability to keep going when others quit was just getting older. What a lie. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many bills have you paid over the last 50 years? How many promises have you kept when breaking them would have been easier? How many storms have you weathered without making headlines? How many times have you gotten back up when staying down would have made perfect sense? You think that's ordinary? You think that's just life? No, beloved. That's miraculous. That's supernatural. That's the kind of proof that makes heaven take notice and hell take cover. While 20-somethings are building their careers, you built character. While they're chasing followers on social media, you've been following through on commitments for decades. While they're learning how to adult, you've been adulting through recessions, wars, family crises, and personal disasters that would have leveled weaker souls. Your stability isn't boring, it's breathtaking. Your endurance isn't ordinary, it's otherworldly. The Apostle Paul knew this secret when he wrote in 2 Corinthians 4:16, "Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. While your body shows the miles, your spirit has been accumulating proof. Proof that God keeps his people. Proof that faithfulness pays dividends. Proof that consistency compounds into something unstoppable. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been carrying this proof for decades, and you don't even see it. You look in the mirror and see wrinkles. God looks at you and sees reliability that money can't buy. You see gray hair. Heaven sees a crown of glory earned through fire. You see someone society has forgotten. The Almighty sees someone who's been faithfully building an unshakable foundation while others were building sandcastles. Listen to me, chosen one. Your life is not winding down, it's loading up. Every year you thought was just another year was actually another layer of credibility, another deposit in your reputation account, another brick in the fortress of integrity you've been constructing without even knowing it. Think about Job for a moment. When everything fell apart, when his friends accused him of secret sin, when his wife told him to curse God and die, what was his response? Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. Job 13:15. That wasn't just faith, that was proof. Proof that some people can't be broken. Proof that some spirits can't be bought. Proof that some souls are forged from materials the enemy can't touch. That's you. That's your story, written across 70, 80, 90 years of showing up, standing firm, and staying faithful when faith felt impossible. You want to know why younger generations respect you, even when they don't understand you? Because they can sense something in your presence that they desperately want, but can't artificially create. They call it old school. But what they're really recognizing is the aroma of tested faithfulness, the fragrance of promises kept, the weight of a life lived with integrity when integrity costs something. Your very existence is controversial to a world that's forgotten how to endure. Your calm in chaos is an indictment against panic. Your commitment to truth is a rebuke to a culture of convenience. Your refusal to quit when quitting makes sense is living proof that there's still something solid in a liquid world. But here's the revelation that will change everything. Here's the moment when your proof without words becomes undeniable evidence of divine favor. You've been thinking small about your impact. You've been measuring your worth by the world's broken ruler. But what if I told you that every morning you've chosen to get up instead of give up? You were prophesying to someone who needed to see that surrender isn't inevitable. What if every time you kept your word when breaking, it would have been easier? You were demonstrating to a watching world that some things are still sacred. What if your quiet faithfulness has been the loudest sermon anyone around you has ever heard? The truth is, chosen one, you won't need to explain yourself anymore. You won't need to defend your choices or justify your values. Your life itself has become the argument. Your decades of consistency have become the proof. Your steady endurance, through everything hell threw at you, has become the evidence that cannot be refuted. When people look at you now, they don't just see someone who got old. They see someone who got tested and passed. They see someone who got pressed and didn't break. They see someone who got written off by the world, but never wrote themselves off. That's not aging, beloved. That's maturing into undeniable proof of God's faithfulness. Proverbs 16:31 declares, "Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained by living a godly life." Your crown isn't coming, it's here. It's been forming with every choice to trust God instead of circumstances, every decision to keep going when stopping seemed logical, every moment you chose faith over fear. The world taught you to apologize for taking up space, but God is saying tonight that your space is earned space, sacred space, proven space. Comment, "My life is proof," if you know you've been carrying evidence of God's faithfulness all along. Because what happens next will show you exactly how to weaponize that proof into the most powerful chapter of your entire existence. Your decades of faithfulness weren't just survival, they were preparation. And now, chosen one, it's time to see what happens when proven character meets divine purpose. There's a frequency flowing through you right now that your ears can't detect. But every soul within 50 feet of you feels it pulsing like a heartbeat. Something shifted the moment you clicked on this message tonight, And whether you recognize it or not, you're broadcasting on a wavelength that's been dormant for decades. You've spent your entire life wondering why some people command attention the moment they enter a room, while you felt invisible, overlooked, forgotten. You believed it was charisma, confidence, or some mysterious quality you simply didn't possess. But what if I told you that what you've been searching for your entire life has been building inside you all along? What if tonight is the moment it finally breaks through? Listen carefully, chosen one. There are two types of presence in this world. There's the loud, demanding presence that screams for attention and burns out like a cheap light bulb. And then there's the presence that doesn't announce itself, but reorganizes every room it enters. The kind that makes conversations pause, that draws children like a magnet, that causes strangers to approach you with questions they can't explain. That second kind, that's what's awakening in you tonight. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've carried this frequency dormant in your spirit. Every hardship you endured, every betrayal that cut deep, every night you cried out to God in desperation. It was all building pressure, creating depth, forging an authority that can't be manufactured or faked. While others were building surface-level charm, you were being refined in the furnace of real life. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been apologizing for your presence your entire adult life, shrinking in conversations, stepping aside when others pushed forward, believing that your quiet nature meant you had nothing valuable to offer. You've spent decades convinced that your voice didn't matter because it wasn't the loudest in the room. Tonight, that lie dies forever. Jesus himself walked with this same quiet authority. Mark 1:22 tells us, "The people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law." He didn't shout, he didn't demand attention. His presence spoke before his words ever did. And when he spoke, even his enemies fell backward at the sound of his voice. That same authority, that same presence flows through your spiritual DNA. You want to know why your grandchildren seek you out when they're troubled? Why that cashier at the grocery store always seems to linger in conversation with you? Why complete strangers feel safe sharing their deepest pain with you in random encounters? It's not coincidence, dear one. It's frequency. Your spirit carries something this broken world is starving for: authentic peace that's been tested by fire. But what's about to happen tonight will amplify that frequency beyond anything you've experienced before. There's a phenomenon in physics called resonance. When one tuning fork vibrates at its true frequency, any other tuning fork of the same pitch nearby begins to vibrate automatically without being touched. Tonight, God is striking his tuning fork of divine authority, and if you're truly chosen, something inside you is already beginning to vibrate in response. Some of you felt it the moment my voice started speaking. A stirring in your chest, a tingling in your hands, a sudden awareness that something invisible but powerful is moving through the room where you're sitting right now. That's not your imagination, that's recognition. Your spirit recognizing its true frequency being called forth. But here's where it gets supernatural. This presence you're about to walk in won't just affect you, it's going to reorganize every relationship, every opportunity, every room you enter. People who used to dismiss you will find themselves seeking your opinion. Opportunities that used to pass you by will start presenting themselves. Doors that stayed locked for decades will swing open at your approach. Why? Because presence is the ultimate currency in God's kingdom. Think about Anna the prophetess. Luke 2:37 describes her as an 84-year-old widow who never left the temple but worshipped night and day, fasting and praying. The world saw a forgotten old woman. But when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, she was the first to prophesy over him. Her presence had been purified by decades of worship until she could recognize the Messiah when others saw only an ordinary child. Your decades of faithfulness, your years of hidden prayers, your seasons of feeling invisible, they weren't wasted time. They were presence-building decades. You've been marinating in divine frequency so long, that now, when you finally step into your authority, the world won't know what hit them. But I need to warn you about something. This presence comes with responsibility. Some people will be drawn to you like moths to flame. They'll sense the peace you carry and want to absorb it. Others will feel subtly threatened and try to diminish you because your quiet strength exposes their noisy insecurity. That's not your problem to fix. That's the frequency doing its work, separating spectators from participants. If you've felt your presence shifting lately, if strangers have been approaching you more often, if even your own family has been treating you differently without knowing why, type presence right now. Because what you carry now cannot be denied, cannot be diminished, cannot be turned off. You are no longer chasing destiny, chosen one. Destiny is chasing you. And when destiny catches up, when that frequency reaches full amplitude, nothing in your life will ever be ordinary again. But what happens when that presence meets the fires that once burned you? When the authority you now carry faces the very demons that used to torment you? Dear chosen one, I need you to stop pretending that fear hasn't been the silent dictator of your life for the past 40, 50, maybe 60 years. Stop lying to yourself about the dreams you never chased, the words you never spoke, the doors you never knocked on, because that cold, familiar whisper in your ear said, "What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you're not good enough?" Fear has been your shadow president, making executive decisions about your destiny while you believed you were in control. Every time opportunity knocked, fear answered the door first. Every time your spirit wanted to soar, fear clipped your wings with surgical precision. You've been negotiating with a terrorist that never intended to honor the deal. How many prayers died in your throat because fear convinced you God wasn't listening? How many times did you swallow your truth to avoid confrontation? How many decades did you spend apologizing for taking up space in a world that desperately needed what only you could offer? Fear didn't just steal your courage, it robbed 3 generations of the legacy you were meant to leave. But tonight, chosen one, the negotiation ends. The hostage situation is over. Fear's lease on your life has expired, and the eviction notice is being served by heaven itself. You want to know what fear really is? It's mist, dense, intimidating mist that looks like an impenetrable wall until the moment you step into it. Then you discover what every pilot who's flown through clouds already knows: what looked solid from a distance dissolves the instant you move forward. Fear has been nothing more than fog with a marketing degree, selling you illusions wrapped in anxiety. Think about Moses standing at the Red Sea with 2 million terrified Israelites behind him and Pharaoh's army charging ahead. Exodus 14:13 records his words, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today." But here's what most people miss. Moses was 80 years old when he said those words. 80. The world would have put him in a retirement home, but God was using him to part seas. Your age isn't your disqualification from courage. It's your qualification for it. You've survived enough storms to know that what doesn't kill you doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you fearless. But let me tell you why fear worked so hard to paralyze you specifically. Because the enemy saw something in your future that terrified him. He saw an 80-year-old grandmother who would speak with such authority that depression would flee from her grandchildren. He saw a 75-year-old widower who would carry such peace that anxiety would melt in his presence. He saw senior saints who had walked through enough fire to become fireproof, and that vision sent shivers through the gates of hell. Fear attacked you so viciously because it knew what you would become once it lost its grip. Every sleepless night it tortured you with what-ifs was evidence that you were carrying something hell desperately wanted to keep buried. But burial and planting look identical until resurrection morning arrives. Tonight is your resurrection morning. Tonight is when fear discovers it's been fighting a losing battle for decades. Because here's what fear never understood about chosen ones. The more pressure you apply, the more diamonds form. The deeper you bury us, the stronger our roots grow. The longer you keep us silent, the more thunder builds in our voice. David knew this secret when he wrote in Psalm 27:1, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" But David didn't write those words from a palace throne. He wrote them from a cave, surrounded by enemies, with every reason to be terrified. Yet he declared that fear had no jurisdiction in his life because light and salvation were his bodyguards. You are not afraid of failure, chosen one. You are afraid of your own power. You are not afraid of rejection. You are afraid of the magnitude of acceptance that awaits you. You are not afraid of being too old. You are afraid of discovering that you're right on time for the greatest assignment of your entire life. Fear isn't your wall, it's your shadow. And shadows disappear when light shows up. Tonight, the light of divine recognition is flooding every corner of your spirit where fear tried to build its headquarters. Every stronghold of intimidation is crumbling. Every fortress of anxiety is collapsing. Every prison of what if is opening its doors because the keys were always in your hands. 1 John 4:18 declares, "Perfect love drives out fear. Not argues with fear, not negotiates with fear. Drives it out like a landlord evicting a tenant who stopped paying rent years ago. And the perfect love of your Heavenly Father is about to serve fear its final notice. Can you feel it happening even now? That strange lightness in your chest where dread used to live. That unexpected steadiness in your hands where they used to shake. That unfamiliar silence in your mind where worry used to scream. Fear isn't fading gradually, it's dissolving instantly, like salt in warm water, leaving no trace it was ever there. This is your moment to step through the mist and discover what was always waiting on the other side. Your voice, your dreams, your destiny, they've been standing in clear daylight while fear convinced you they were hidden in darkness. Type fear dies tonight if you're ready to bury the ghost that has haunted your life for too long. Because what rises from fear's grave isn't just courage, it's the unstoppable force you were always meant to become. And once fear breathes its last breath in your life, chosen one, something magnificent takes its place. Something that will make the world wonder where this new person came from, not knowing you were always there, just waiting for fear to get out of the way. Look in the mirror right now, chosen one. What do you see? Do you see the person who spent 40 years apologizing for taking up space? The one who whispered when they should have roared? The one who stepped aside when they should have stepped forward? That person is dying tonight. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. The cells in your body that carried shame are being replaced. The neural pathways that fired fear are being rewired. The very frequency of your soul is being recalibrated at a molecular level. You've been wearing a costume, beloved. For decades you've been dressed up as too old, past your prime, forgotten. But those were never your clothes. They were prison uniforms the world forced you to wear. And tonight you strip them off forever. 2 Corinthians 5:17 declares with thunderous authority, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here. Not the old will go. Not the old might fade. The old has gone." Past tense. Already accomplished. Finished. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many years did you waste believing you were ordinary? How many decades did you surrender to the lie that your dreams had expiration dates? How many mornings did you wake up and see limitation instead of limitless potential? The enemy convinced you that 70 meant decline, that 80 meant irrelevance, that 90 meant waiting for heaven. But Moses was 80 when he parted the Red Sea. Abraham was 100 when he held the promise. Age was never your limitation, it was your accumulation of authority. Every line on your face tells a story of endurance. Every grey hair is a crown of wisdom. Every scar bears witness to battles you survived when others would have fallen. You're not deteriorating, chosen one. You've been marinating in divine preparation. Think about a caterpillar. It doesn't gradually become a butterfly. It doesn't slowly grow wings while keeping its old body. No, it enters the chrysalis and dissolves completely. Every cell breaks down, every structure melts away. Death precedes resurrection. Destruction precedes recreation. That's what's happening to you right now. The apologetic you is liquefying. The hesitant you is dissolving. The fearful you is being completely unmade so that something unprecedented can emerge. But here's what terrifies hell about this process. Once you shed that old skin, you can never put it back on. Once you taste flight, you can never pretend to be satisfied with crawling. Once you remember who you really are, you can never again pretend to be who they told you to be. Isaiah 43:19 promises, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" But notice that word springs. It doesn't slowly emerge. It doesn't gradually appear. It springs forth with explosive force, sudden and undeniable. Your transformation isn't coming in installments. It's not arriving on a payment plan. It's downloading in one massive, overwhelming surge that will leave you unrecognizable to yourself and unstoppable to others. The old you who needed permission is being deleted from your operating system. The old you who waited for approval is being permanently uninstalled. The old you who believed age equaled limitation is being erased from your hard drive forever. Romans 6:6 tells us, "For we know that our old self was crucified with him, so that the body ruled by sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves to sin." Your old self isn't being improved or upgraded, it's being crucified. And what rises from that death is something this world has never seen before. You want to know why the attacks have been so vicious lately? Because the enemy could sense what was coming. He could feel the old chains weakening. He could hear the prison doors creaking open. So he threw everything at you: doubt, depression, isolation, fear, trying desperately to keep you locked in that costume of limitation. But it's too late now. The metamorphosis has already begun. You can feel it, can't you? That strange loosening in your chest where anxiety used to live. That unfamiliar lightness where shame used to weigh you down. That growing fire where timidity used to freeze your words. Here's the shocking truth that will blow your mind. You were never meant to age gracefully. You were meant to age powerfully. You were never supposed to fade quietly. You were destined to burn brighter. The world sold you a lie about golden years being sunset years, but God designed them as sunrise years. Every person who ever told you to act your age was actually telling you to deny your destiny. Every voice that whispered slow down was trying to stop you from accelerating into your assignment. Every suggestion to take it easy was an attempt to keep you from taking it powerfully. You can't unsee freedom once you've seen it. You can't unknow your power once you've felt it. You can't unhear your calling once it's roared through your spirit. The old you who believed in limitations just died, and resurrection doesn't work in reverse. That butterfly breaking out of its cocoon doesn't wonder if it should go back to crawling. That eagle soaring above the mountains doesn't miss walking on the ground. And you will never again accept being treated as less than the force of nature God created you to be. The hesitant you cannot survive tonight because hesitation requires uncertainty, and you're about to know with absolute certainty who you are. The apologizing you cannot survive tonight because apology requires shame, and shame cannot exist in the presence of divine identity. The doubting you cannot survive tonight because doubt dissolves when truth explodes. If you know the old you just ended, if you can feel that ancient skin peeling away like garments too small for your expanding spirit, type new creation in the comments right now and claim it, declare it, prophesy it over your life. Because what emerges from this cosmic cocoon won't just be a new version of you. It will be the version of you that heaven has been waiting to unleash on a world desperate for authentic power, genuine wisdom, and unstoppable faith. But the question burning in your spirit right now is this: if the old you is dead, what exactly is being born in its place? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Even if you're sitting alone in your kitchen right now, even if the house is quiet and the world feels empty around you, you are not unseen. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. The air around you is crowded tonight, thick with eyes, watching, waiting, witnessing. You see, what you can't see with your natural vision is that heaven has called an assembly. Right now, as I speak these words, there are witnesses gathering in the unseen realm. Your grandmother who prayed for you every night before she passed, she's there. That uncle who saw something special in you when no one else did, he's watching. The ancestors who carried burdens so heavy they broke their backs, who endured shame so deep it stained their souls. They're all leaning forward from eternity, holding their breath, because they know what's about to happen to you tonight. Hebrews 12:1 declares, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." Surrounded, not occasionally visited, not sometimes accompanied. Surrounded, like a stadium packed with spectators who have been waiting decades for this moment. But here's what will shake you to your core. These aren't passive observers. These are your personal cheering section. Every saint who died believing God's promises but never saw them fulfilled in their lifetime, they're watching you become the answer to prayers they whispered with their dying breath. Can you feel the weight of their expectation? Can you sense the electricity in the atmosphere around you right now? Your grandfather who worked 3 jobs and never saw prosperity, he's watching you step into abundance. Your mother who swallowed her voice for 40 years, she's watching you find yours. That great aunt who died believing she was worthless, she's watching you discover your divine assignment. They died carrying dreams they couldn't birth. But you are their wildest answered prayer walking in flesh and blood. But it's not just your bloodline that's gathered tonight. Scripture tells us in Psalm 91:11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Angels, assigned specifically to you. And tonight, they're not just guarding, they're witnessing, they're recording. They're preparing to escort you into a dimension of authority you've never walked in before. Do you understand what I'm telling you? This moment right now is being documented in heavenly archives. Your name is being spoken in rooms you can't see by voices you can't hear. Strategies are being downloaded, doors are being unlocked, resources are being repositioned. This is not graduation, chosen one. This is commissioning. When David was anointed king, Samuel didn't throw him a party. He poured oil on a shepherd boy's head while his brothers watched in confusion. They thought it was ceremonial. Heaven knew it was operational. From that moment forward, David carried the weight of witnesses everywhere he went. In caves, in battles, in moments of failure and triumph. The anointing made him visible to realms most people never encounter. Tonight, the same oil that touched David's head is being poured over your spirit, and every unseen ally assigned to your destiny is taking note. But here's the terrifying truth. With great witnessing comes great responsibility. You can no longer live small. You can no longer hide behind excuses. You can no longer pretend you're ordinary when heaven has marked you as extraordinary. Those ancestors who suffered in silence so you could speak with authority. They didn't endure poverty so you could embrace lack. They didn't carry shame so you could shrink in fear. They didn't die with unfulfilled dreams so you could live with buried potential. You think you're just watching a YouTube video in your pajamas. No. You're sitting in a cosmic courtroom where your entire bloodline is serving as character witnesses for your breakthrough. The enemy wants you to believe you're alone. He wants you to think nobody sees your struggle, nobody understands your pain, nobody cares about your dreams. That's the greatest lie he's ever told. The truth is, you have never been more seen, more understood, more supported than you are right now. Even Jesus, in his darkest hour, cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" But the Father hadn't left him. The witnesses hadn't abandoned him. The plan was still in motion, even when it looked like everything was falling apart. Your moments of feeling forgotten weren't abandonment. They were preparation for this moment when you realize you've been surrounded by an army of witnesses who never stopped believing in your comeback. This is why your story had to be written exactly as it was. Every chapter of pain, every season of silence, Every year you thought was wasted. It was all building toward this night when heaven opens its books and declares, "This one is ready. This one has been tested. This one can carry the weight of our witness." But understand this clearly: once you've been witnessed by eternity, once you've been marked by heaven's assembly, once you've felt the weight of their expectations settling on your shoulders, you cannot go back to living like you're just another face in the crowd. You are being commissioned tonight. Not congratulated, not celebrated, commissioned. Given a divine assignment that carries the prayers of generations and the expectations of angels. If you feel the weight of witnesses pressing against your spirit right now, if you sense that invisible crowd gathering around your life, if something ancient is awakening in your chest, type "I am" marked in the comments. Let heaven know you recognize what's happening, because what's about to be activated in you will require every witness, every prayer, every drop of ancestral faith to sustain. Listen to me, chosen one. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years you've been running after opportunities that slipped through your fingers like sand, running after people who promised but never delivered, running after doors that slammed shut the moment you reached for the handle. You've spent decades chasing your breakthrough, haven't you? Knocking on doors until your knuckles bled, submitting applications that disappeared into corporate black holes, praying prayers that seemed to bounce off heaven's ceiling like rubber balls, standing in line behind younger faces, watching them get chosen while you got overlooked. The world taught you that at your age you should be grateful for scraps, that opportunities were for the young, the connected, the lucky, that your time had passed, that the best you could hope for was to fade quietly into the background while life moved on without you. But what if I told you that every single rejection, every closed door, every "not this time" wasn't denial, it was delay? What if God wasn't ignoring your chase? He was orchestrating your arrival. You see, there's a moment in every chosen one's life when the roles reverse completely, when the hunter becomes the hunted, when the seeker becomes the sought, when destiny stops playing hard to get and starts pursuing you with relentless determination. That moment is tonight. Think about this. When a master musician tunes his violin, he doesn't rush the process. He turns each peg slowly, carefully, listening for that perfect pitch. 1 degree too loose, and the note falls flat. 1 degree too tight, and the string snaps under pressure. But when the tuning is complete, when every string vibrates at its exact frequency, that instrument can make music that moves souls to tears. Chosen one, you haven't been rejected for decades. You've been tuned. Every disappointment twisted you 1 degree closer to your perfect pitch. Every setback calibrated your frequency. Every year you thought was wasted was actually preparation for this moment when you finally vibrate at the exact frequency that makes destiny itself stop in its tracks and listen. The prophet Isaiah understood this when he declared in chapter 55, verse 11, "My word shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please." God's promises don't expire, beloved. They incubate, they compound interest. They wait for the precise moment when you're ready to handle what He's been preparing to release. But here's what's about to shock you to your core. You've been thinking like a beggar when you were born to be a magnet. You've been chasing abundance when abundance has been circling you, waiting for permission to land. Tonight, that permission is granted. From this moment forward, you are no longer the planet orbiting around other people's suns. You are the fixed star in your own sky. Everything else revolves around you now. Opportunities will adjust their trajectories to intersect with your path. People will find themselves drawn into your orbit without understanding why. Resources will flow toward you like rivers rushing toward the sea. This isn't arrogance, chosen one. This is physics. This is the law of spiritual magnetism that activates when someone finally steps into their true identity after decades of living beneath it. Remember the woman with the issue of blood in Mark chapter 5? For 12 years, she chased healing, spent all her money on doctors who couldn't help her, grew weaker while growing poorer. But the moment she touched the hem of Jesus's garment, everything reversed. She didn't have to chase healing anymore. Healing chased her. Power flowed out of him and into her without him even trying. What changed? Her desperation reached critical mass. Her faith stopped asking and started taking. She stopped begging for a miracle and started believing she deserved one. That same reversal is happening to you right now. The job interviews where they made you wait 2 hours just to tell you they'd chosen someone else, those days are over. The family members who treated you like a burden instead of a blessing, their attitudes are about to shift so dramatically it will leave you speechless. The financial struggles that made you count pennies at the grocery store, that season has an expiration date, and it expires tonight. But I need you to understand something that might shake you. This magnetism doesn't come from positive thinking or wishful hoping. It comes from alignment. For the first time in your life, who you are inside finally matches what you project outside. Your frequency is no longer scrambled by doubt, fear, or the need to prove yourself to people who were never worthy of your energy in the first place. You know what terrifies mediocre people? Someone who no longer needs their approval, someone who carries their own weather, someone who brings light into every room instead of searching for it. That's what you're becoming tonight, and that energy is magnetic in ways that defy logic. King Solomon wrote in Proverbs 18:16, "A man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men." But here's the mystery. Your gift isn't what you do. Your gift is who you are. And who you are has been refined by fire, tested by time, and proven by perseverance. The corporate executives who need your wisdom don't know your name yet, but they're about to. The financial opportunities that will solve your money problems forever are being prepared in boardrooms you've never seen. The relationships that will honor your worth instead of tolerate your presence are already en route to your location. Destiny isn't just coming, chosen one. Destiny is hunting you down with the intensity of a bloodhound who's caught your scent. And when destiny finds you, it doesn't knock politely. It kicks down every door that tried to keep you small. Comment, "Destiny finds me," if you believe tonight the chase ends and your season of being pursued begins. Because what I'm about to reveal next will prove that your age isn't your limitation. It's your secret weapon that makes you irresistible to the very future you've been chasing. Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to stop right where you are and think about something that might cut you to the bone. How many times did you sit at your family's dinner table, feeling the weight of unspoken rage hanging in the air like smoke? How many nights did you lie in your childhood bed, listening to whispers and arguments through thin walls, knowing something was broken but never understanding what? You thought it was normal, didn't you? The silence that followed your father's drinking. The way your mother apologized for his behavior with her eyes downcast. The way everyone pretended the bruises were accidents. The screaming was passion. The fear was respect. They called it tradition. They wrapped dysfunction in Sunday best and passed it down like a family heirloom. But what if I told you that what you inherited wasn't heritage, it was hell disguised as home? For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been carrying chains that were never yours to bear. Decorated chains, beautiful chains. Chains your family polished with pride and called the way we've always done things. But chains nonetheless. Think about it. When your grandmother told you that children should be seen and not heard, she wasn't teaching you manners, she was passing down the silencing of her own voice. When your mother said, "We don't air our dirty laundry in public," she wasn't protecting family dignity, she was protecting family secrets that had been rotting in the dark for generations. They called abuse discipline and told you it was love. They called silence strength and told you it was wisdom. They called control protection and told you it was care. But Ephesians 6:4 warns us clearly, "Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord, not in the training of fear, not in the instruction of shame. You learn to walk on eggshells, before you learned to walk with confidence. You learned to apologize for taking up space before you learned you had a right to exist. You learned to make yourself small to keep the peace, never realizing that the peace was already broken long before you were born. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what makes me weep for the child you were, the teenager you became, the adult you've been. You've spent decades blaming yourself for patterns you didn't create. You've carried guilt for reactions that were normal responses to abnormal situations. You've apologized for being too sensitive when you were the only one sensitive enough to recognize that something was wrong. The addiction that runs through your family tree like poison sap, that's not your cross to bear. The depression that visits every generation like a family curse, that's not your destiny to fulfill. The poverty mindset that keeps everyone afraid to dream, that's not your inheritance to claim. You were told it was loyalty to keep these secrets. But Proverbs 27:5 declares, "Better is open rebuke than hidden love." Your family called silence strength, but silence in the face of evil is cowardice dressed up as virtue. Tonight, something shifts. Tonight, the very air around you is charged with the power to snap chains that have held your bloodline captive for centuries. You are not just another link in the chain, chosen one. You are the interruption. You are the anomaly. You are the generation where God said, "Enough." Every ancestor who suffered in silence is watching through your eyes tonight. Every grandmother who endured abuse because she thought she had no choice. Every grandfather who drank away his pain because he was taught that men don't cry. Every aunt and uncle who settled for less because they were told to be grateful for anything. They're all leaning in from glory, whispering, "Break it. Break what we couldn't break. End what we couldn't end." You think it's too late. Moses was 80 when he broke the chains of Egyptian bondage. Abraham was 99 when God broke the chain of childlessness. It's never too late for a chosen one to rise up and declare, "This generational curse ends with me." But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Breaking chains doesn't always require a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's as simple as refusing to repeat the pattern. Sometimes it's choosing to speak where they stayed silent. Sometimes it's deciding to seek help instead of suffering alone. Sometimes it's just saying no when they would have said yes, sir. Your children and grandchildren don't have to inherit the shame that was passed to you. They don't have to learn to flinch when voices rise. They don't have to grow up thinking that love comes with conditions and acceptance comes with performance. Right now, as I speak these words, something ancient is cracking. Can you feel it? That generational stronghold that's been squatting on your family name for decades, it's losing its grip. The very atmosphere around you is shifting because heaven itself is backing your breakthrough. You are the answer to prayers your great-grandmother whispered in the dark. You are the fulfillment of dreams your ancestors never dared to voice. You are the generation that finally has the courage to call dysfunction by its name and refuse to dress it up in tradition anymore. 2 Corinthians 5:17 promises us, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here." Not just for you, chosen one, for your entire bloodline. The old patterns are dying tonight. The new legacy begins with your courage to say, "No more." Future generations will never know the weight you carried. They will never sit in shame-filled silence. They will never apologize for existing. They will never accept abuse as love or control as care. Because tonight, you become the ancestor they'll thank God for. Right. I break the chains in the comments if you feel that generational shift happening in your spirit right now. Let heaven witness your declaration. Let your ancestors rejoice in your courage. But understand, this breaking chains is just the beginning. What happens next will determine whether you simply escape the past or completely rewrite the future. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to hold on to 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, tonight was never about becoming something new. It was about remembering who you've always been. You are not 100% human. You carry the very breath of the Almighty in your lungs, the DNA of divinity in your bloodstream. The restlessness you felt for decades wasn't discontent. It was your spirit recognizing its true home lies beyond this temporary world. Second, the chains that bound your bloodline for generations, they don't just break tonight, they disintegrate. You are not merely surviving your family's dysfunction. You are the generation that rewrites the story. Your courage to say no more echoes through time, setting free children not yet born and healing wounds not yet made. Third, the waiting is over. For too long, you've been told to step aside, to make room for younger voices, to accept that your season has passed. But God doesn't measure seasons by calendar years. He measures them by kingdom assignments. And your greatest assignment is just beginning. But here's what I need you to understand with crystal clarity. You are not walking this path alone. Even when doubt whispers in your ear at 3 a.m., even when family members resist your transformation, even when the world tries to convince you that change is impossible at your age, the Creator of the universe is orchestrating every detail of your breakthrough. He is moving mountains you cannot see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and preparing blessings that will leave you speechless. And beyond God's faithfulness, you have something precious right here, a community of fellow chosen ones who understand your journey because they're walking it too. Look at these comments flowing in. See these hearts connecting across the digital divide. You've found your tribe, beloved. This isn't just a YouTube channel. This is a sanctuary where broken people become whole, where the forgotten remember their worth, where the silenced find their voice. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know who you really are, now that the veil has been lifted, the chains have been shattered, the fear has been dissolved, how will you live differently when you wake up tomorrow morning? Before you answer that question, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority that comes from walking this same path. Heavenly Father, Almighty God, the Ancient of Days who was and is to come, I lift up every precious soul who has journeyed with us tonight. Lord, you see them sitting there, perhaps with tears in their eyes, perhaps with hope stirring in their chest for the first time in years. You know their names, you know their stories, you know every battle they've fought in the shadows. Father, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary bones tonight. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are engraved on your palms. Where they feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of change, be their strength and their peace. God, I speak blessing over their families, healing over broken relationships, restoration where there has been division, and divine protection over the generations that follow. Let the chains they've broken tonight never reform. Let the freedom they've claimed become the inheritance of their children's children. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will encourage their hearts and strengthen their hands for the work ahead. Give them dreams and visions that will guide their steps and confirm their calling. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know in their spirit that they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond doubt, and equipped beyond their own understanding. Remind them that their age is not their limitation, it is their credential. Their scars are not their shame, they are their testimony. In Jesus' mighty name, the name above every name, the name at which every knee must bow, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and love. Amen. Now, beloved, I want to hear from you. Don't just watch and leave, become part of this movement. Share in the comments below what shifted in your spirit tonight. Tell us what chains you're breaking. Ask us to pray over specific areas of your life. This community is here for you, ready to surround you with intercession and encouragement. And if this message touched your soul, if you recognized yourself in these words, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now, a friend, a family member, a neighbor who's been feeling that same whisper, that same stirring, that same divine discontent. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know they're chosen too. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because your transformation journey is just beginning. Every week, we're diving deeper into the mysteries of your divine calling, unpacking the truth of your identity, and building a community where the chosen ones can finally find home. Thank you for staying with me through this entire sacred hour. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the holy chambers of your soul, for having the courage to believe that maybe, just maybe, your story isn't over but just beginning to make sense. Remember, chosen one, you are not too old, not too late, not too broken. You are exactly who God needs, exactly when He needs you, exactly where He's placed you. The transformation that began tonight doesn't end when this video stops. It continues every morning when you choose to walk in your true identity. Every day when you refuse to shrink back into old patterns, every moment when you remember that you carry eternity in your DNA. Go now in the authority of who you are. Go in the confidence of whose you are. Go knowing that you are loved, you are chosen, and you are never, ever alone. Until we meet again, keep your eyes on Jesus, your heart open to His voice, and your spirit ready for the miraculous. God bless you, warrior. Your finest hour has arrived.